This isn't a how-to video, but more of a do-it-yourself for PC novices. I'm pretty comfortable working with PC components and doing simple upgrades, but I'm no overclocker or anything like that. So if you're like an expert PC builder or hardcore overclocker, then you probably won't get much from this. But if you're newer to content creation and want to see a fellow content creator take a shot at building and upgrading his PC, then you're in the right place. The PC I was using is a bit slow and a little outdated. It bogs down the creative process and can be a little frustrating to work with. So I'm building a new PC to fit my specific needs. I like this because you get to choose the components that will work best for your type of content creation. For example, if you're a video editor, you may choose a high-resolution color-accurate monitor and a CPU and a lot of RAM. On the other hand, if you're a game streamer, you would probably pick a high-refresh monitor and a really powerful GPU. I had considered a pre-built, but pre-built computers can be a little expensive and a lot of the time come with components that may not fit your needs. Building your own computer, you can save money not only by choosing the components you need, but also by reusing some of your existing components. I recently built a new PC for content creation. After a bunch of research and watching YouTube videos, I had a good sense of what I wanted. This PC is mostly for content creation, but also for a bit of gaming. So let's kick things off with the essentials. I'm using a mix of new components as well as reusing some of my existing ones. Starting with my new components. For the motherboard, I picked the Asus ProArt X670E, mainly for its robust connectivity. I really like that it has a ton of USB ports, including USB 4 ports. It also has a bunch of NVMe drive slots for lots of fast storage. I paired the motherboard with the AMD Ryzen 9 7900 Non-X. I went with the 7900 Non-X because it was on special at Micro Center at the time, and its performance is pretty much on par with the Non-X version. It performs well in all the apps I use, and it runs a little cooler. As for the RAM, I went with 64 gigabits of DDR5 6000. It's a G.Skill kit. G.Skill RAM was on the validated list for the Asus X670E ProArt, and I've used their RAM before, and having 64 gigabits should be plenty enough for my content creation needs. For my OS drive, I picked a XPG 4TB NVMe SSD. This SSD was on sale at the time on Amazon, and I really like that it's 4 terabytes, and even though it's not the fastest, it's still plenty fast for me. The final new components are my case, the Montech Sky 2 in Morocco Blue, and a 1000 watt Corsair Shift power supply. It's a little overkill for what I need, but I got it for a bit of future proofing. Plus, my old power supply died, so I kinda had no choice but to buy a new one. I chose the Sky 2 because I honestly just like the aesthetics, and it has really good reviews. Plus, I just love the color. As for what I'm reusing my trusty EVGA 3080 Ti and my backup drives, which are a Sabrent 2 terabit Gen 3 NVMe drive, as well as a Samsung 2 terabit 860 EVO SATA SSD. My 3080 Ti is still going strong and handles everything I needed to, so getting a new GPU just did not make sense for me. As for my backup drives, even though they are a little old at this point, they have a decent amount of space and speed, and they're still working fine, so it didn't make sense to get any new ones. I started off with the motherboard and getting all the core components installed. Since I'm using an AIO water cooler, I prepped the CPU socket and installed the CPU. I added a Thermalright bracket to help with cooling. Next up, I installed the RAM sticks. After that, I moved on to the main NVMe slot for the OS drive. It's an easy install. Just remove the heatsink, peel the adhesive film off, install the drive, making sure it's the right way. Finally, secure it with the little lock and put the heatsink back on. Make sure to remove any of the adhesive film though. The process is nearly identical for all the other NVMe drives. Once I was done with the motherboard components, I moved on to prepping the case. One thing I really like about this case is pretty much all the panels are removable. It makes it really easy to work with. The case comes with 4 RGB fans and a fan hub, so it's pretty easy to set up with your motherboard if it doesn't have a lot of fan headers. Next, I moved on to the AIO water cooler. I did forget to mention this in the new parts section, but I picked this AIO because I am familiar with EK for their custom water cooling setups, and it's been getting solid reviews. The fans use a daisy chain system, so it's easy to manage the wires. After mounting the fans, I started working on the mounting hardware. It was very straightforward, pretty easy to get done. Screw in the mounting points, screw on the mounting bracket onto the AIO cooler. Here I switched gears a bit and got to working on getting the motherboard installed into the case. This was very straightforward as the mounting holes all lined up super easily. I secured all the screws and was ready to move on to cable management. I bought this cable kit to kind of match the color of the case. It's really nice, the wires are soft and easy to work with. I plugged in the 24 pin into the motherboard and ran the GPU cables as well. I finished up connecting the remaining cables and was pretty happy with the results. Now with that out of the way, I got to work installing the AIO. First, I mounted the CPU block onto the motherboard with the included spring-loaded nuts. This was pretty easy. It was a bit of a tight fit for the radiator, but once it was in place, it was easy to secure. With all the big stuff out of the way, I moved on to cable management. I ended up not using the 24-pin cable I bought because it was a little too bulky. The Corsair shift design did make it a little easier to handle cable management, but it's pretty tight against the rear panel, but not dangerously so. I also just kind of stuffed my Samsung drive into the cable bay because I needed the space where the SSD mounts were. After I finished building my PC, I did my best to test everything and make sure it was working properly. I ran a few stress tests like Cinebench and a few renders in Blender, as well as a few games just to make sure everything was stable and working properly. After I felt good about its stability, I went into the BIOS and used the PBO settings option, and it gave my CPU a little boost that basically puts it on par with the 7900X, and it automatically set the RAM to 6000. I'm not looking to overclock it any more than this because I'm more concerned with stability. Building a new PC can be a little daunting, but as content creators, having a powerful and efficient computer is essential to our work. And building your own PC allows you to customize it to fit your specific needs, and it's also fun. Building this PC, I learned that I should have done more research on the case. This case worked well, but it was a little harder to build in for my skill level. But I did learn how to work in tight spaces, and I'm really happy with how it turned out. Thanks for watching. I hope that my experience helps you feel more confident about building your own PC. I hope you enjoyed the video. Drop a comment or a question, give it a thumbs up, subscribe for more content creation tips, tricks, and stories, and we'll see you in the next one.